Citizenship is more for someone who needs access. I need to be very clear. It's not going to protect you from the government. If you're looking at trying to hide something from the government, that's I can't help you. If they want to come after you, they're going to get you. There are ways for foreigners to buy land. There's long-term visas that give you some really, really good tax benefits when you're doing legitimate business here. Mm-hmm. While Thailand has a higher barrier to entry for investment, once you pass that barrier, there's some really, really strong opportunities that a lot of people aren't talking about. Eventually, I think they're going to make the citizenship by investment programs harder. They're going to increase the thresholds. The sooner you get in, the better. Also, the stronger the passport you get, right, the better.
Welcome to the Thaiger podcast. Today, we're diving into the world of global freedom, second citizenships, and smart international strategy with Cleveland English III, founder of Br'er Rabbit Advisory. From offshore structures and Thai company setups to asset protection and lifestyle planning, Cleveland helps high net worth individuals and globally minded entrepreneurs unlock long-term security and freedom. If you've ever dreamed of living borderless, this episode is for you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cleveland English III. Welcome to another episode of the Thaiger podcast, guys. Today, we are going to be covering a subject that I think a lot of our viewers are very interested in, and that's international mobility and asset protection, finding ways to live a comfortable life with peace of mind in the place you want to be. And today, I am joined by Br'er Rabbit Advisory's Cleveland Cliff English III, a very, very strong expert in this field to get some answers. How are you doing, Cleveland?
Can't complain at all. Really happy to be here, Alex.
Thank you for coming, man. Well, let's get started. I just wanted to start off with a little bit of a personal touch. I wanted to talk about your story. How did Br'er Rabbit come to be in its form, Br'er Rabbit Advisory, and what inspired you to focus on this international mobility and asset protection as a business? Okay,
great. Well, I've been here in Thailand for quite some time, over 20 years, almost 25 years. Vast majority of that time working in the Middle East, government contracting, U.S. military contracting during the war and that sort of thing. And I moved into the offshore corporate advisory space a few years ago as I was working with clients that I've known previously that were interested in setting up companies overseas, doing work here in Thailand, setting up trust structures, basically allowing themselves to live here and function here in a way that made sense, minimize their taxes and allow them the freedom and mobility to function here. Yeah.
That's, it's a big subject. A lot of people don't understand, especially living abroad. I've been an expat for the majority of my adult life.
Yeah.
And it can be very confusing, I got to tell you. So you're providing a service that I think a lot of people need and need that hand-holding a little bit to feel safe and have that expertise on tap. So it's very interesting. So yeah, you started off in the Middle East, you said.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I had started off working in procurement with one of the huge U.S. prime contractors, Halliburton, KBR Halliburton, in Iraq in 2005, and I eventually left working with them. I consulted with local companies, helped them to win U.S. government contracts, and then eventually formed my own company as well, taking contracts there as well. And see, that background, right, with government contracting really helped prepare me for corporate structuring offshore because it's very detail-oriented. It's very rote, but within the details, within the structure, within the formula, there are ways that you can optimize, right? There's ways that you can find greater success within that structure. And so when I started to see how this works, and I started to understand how setting up these companies worked in conjunction with setting up companies here, right? Because we have a corporate law firm here in Thailand as well. It really just started to come together. And then for the first time in a while, I really appreciated the solutions we're able to provide for people.
Really cool. So that background in all of that coalesced into you being able to create your own services out here. Can you tell me just a little bit briefly about the move from the Middle East out here to Thailand? What was that transition like?
people stopped shooting. I mean, or should I say, they didn't stop shooting 100%, but they were shooting a lot less, right? So basically, as the war started to die down and the government contracts started to become a bit less numerous and more competitive, smaller firms like mine had more difficulty in finding in finding contracts that they could be competitive on. With the larger ones, we're just scrambling, bidding at or below cost just to stay alive.
Right.
So I came back here to Thailand. I've been married here now 17 years, and I worked with my father-in-law, who is a master architect, to find additional contracts there for design, for design build, for factories and such. Work with Japanese, with U.S. companies, even with the State Department as well. So
it's very interesting because Bangkok affords those opportunities. I think there's so many people that are from all over the world are setting up shop here in one way or another. And I think that's fun, the melting pot that's created here.
And it's another step too. So having come from the contracting background, so you understand contracts, then going into design and design build here locally, so you understand things like how to work with IAT, how construction contracts here work, and working with building codes and land and that sort of thing, BOI promotions and such.
Right.
And then, so when it came to setting up the law firm here, I already had a decent background for it as well. Yeah.
So you came prepared. Nice.
I think life just prepared me. I didn't even realize that I had the preparation until someone asked.
What is the old saying? Luck is just opportunity meeting preparation, right?
Preparation meeting opportunity, yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
Well, seems like it's working out.
So far, so good.
Good. Well, I wanted to ask specifically about the name. Br'er Rabbit. You got Br'er Rabbit Advisory, Br'er Rabbit Legal, right? Where did that come from?
Yes. Okay. So that's an interesting story. So Br'er Rabbit, it's American folklore. It comes from African American folklore, primarily in the South, about the clever Br'er Rabbit. Right?
Yeah.
And Br'er, it's not. Some people think it's briar, like a briar patch or something like that. It's actually Br'er is like a vernacular for bruh, or like brother.
That's what
it's actually Brother Rabbit, right? And Brother Rabbit, he's certainly not the strongest, right, or the fastest, but he's clever. And despite all these difficult situations that Br'er Rabbit finds himself in, trying to get trapped by Brother Fox or Brother Bear, he manages to find a way out, talk his way out. Over, through, around. He's just almost impossible to stop once he has a goal, right? So that's where that came from, and that comes from maybe 200 or 300 years of history on that. So then another interesting side note is from local Thai and Chinese astrology. I'm Year of the Rabbit.
Oh, there you go.
Right,
doubled up.
Exactly. And you notice on the logo you have the moon background. A lot of my clients come from the blockchain space, although not all of them. And they're the concept of mooning, like a crypto. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all sorts of symbolism at play there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's an excellent namesake, considering the kind of industry that you're in, and wheeling, dealing, getting to the nitty gritty of things, and finding clever solutions for your clients.
So we're never going to be the largest, right? We're never going to have the most staff, but we are really, really good at finding a solution for individual clients' issues. Yeah.
Nimble and witty.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, speaking of the nitty gritty, let's dive into it a little bit, because this is something that I find very interesting. It's actually an industry my father has been involved in America, and that's citizenship and residency by investment. So for those unfamiliar with it, can you explain a little bit about these concepts and how just how it works, basically?
Right. So this is one of our newer service offerings, and I think it's really important because citizenship by investment, people think, so what, you can just buy a passport from somewhere, like some sort of shady jurisdiction where you just give some money and the official gives it. No, it's not like that at all. So what it is all around the world, countries from wealthy ones, right? Europe, like Portugal, to smaller ones that folks might not have ever heard of, like Vanuatu and Nauru. They have programs that are designed to bring in new citizens and bring in investment capital to their country, and they, depending on what that nation's goals are, right? Depends on what sort of offering they provide. It could be something like a golden visa, like you have in the UAE and Greece, or it could be a straight up citizenship, like you'll find in Turkey, Portugal, or Dominica, for example. So the way it usually works is a person that would like to have another passport, right? And we'll get into the reasons why you might want to have another passport.
I can think of a few.
Yeah. Do not let your politicians choose your side for you.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. You don't have to let them pick your side. You can pick when you feel like it. And that's one of the reasons. But so what happens is, depending on what you want to do, whether it's you want another passport because you come from a place where it's difficult to travel on your passport, right? So you want something that gives you more options in Europe, like let's say maybe you're from China, or you're from like South Africa or some other place where your passport could be a little bit stronger. You might want to choose something like Portugal, one of the best passports in the world. Like I believe 194 different countries you have visa-free access to. It's really, really good. It could be that you have a relatively strong passport, but it comes with limitations, like ours, for example. American citizens know, not exactly easy getting access to the financial products that you might want overseas. Opening up a local bank account, opening up a brokerage account overseas. The amount of extra paperwork with FATCA and other filings as a U.S. citizen is heavy, right? Another passport, sometimes people get another passport for banking or for setting up companies and that sort of thing. Right? So it depends on what you're looking for, either traveling and maybe family security, or you want access to some options in terms of for finances and from a business standpoint.
So can you run me through the process then? So I can see why a lot of people would want to engage in this and broaden their abilities there for both financial reasons or just travel reasons, lifestyle purposes. How does it work in terms of the investment then? So the money goes in. Is this like a loan-based thing? Is it an equity-based thing? How does that look?
That's the beauty of it. So each country has its own offering, and some of them have multiple offerings, right? Depending on what the person wants to do, right? So it could be something as simple as just a investment in the national infrastructure, like in a country like Nauru, where pay $105,000. That goes into the government. You don't see that back. They go through the background checks. You have your KYC, your customer, that sort of thing. Assuming you're approved, then you have your nationality, your passport. To something like, say, in Portugal, where you can buy real estate as an option. Hold that for a certain number of years. You can invest in a government-approved fund, of which there are many. And it's not just government funds, they're government-approved private funds. So there's some really good ones out there as well that you can easily see returns 10, 15% on up. Yeah. And so for that one, for example, you do 500,000 euros. It needs to be in the fund, held in that fund for 5 years. But once the 5 years is up, right, you take out the money tax-free with your interest, right? And you get your passport. And then in the interim, you have a golden visa. Right. So you're able to live there, work, healthcare, all that. Right. And then when you come, then at the end of the 5 years, you get your investment back. It more than pays for the minimal government fees, and you're good to go.
Yes, solid.
So it just depends on which one is really fits best for the client and about their family and their investment portfolio. Yeah.
Very interesting. So that's one of the benefits. Is like, if you got it, it can pay for itself, and you get all those benefits as you're waiting for it to mature, I guess.
Exactly.
Say,
That's the interesting thing. So some of the ones that are touted as being cheaper, like let's say Dominica or Nauru, for example, they actually can end up costing more over the long term than some of the more expensive programs like Turkey and Portugal, just because you're actually getting money back, returns on your investment, as opposed to just putting the money into the government there in return for your
there's like one-time fees versus loan-based programs where there's actually an interest being paid out at the end.
Correct. It's not even a loan. You're putting in an actual fund. Like
cool.
Yeah. So
as long as the government's still standing, you should be okay. Probably.
Pretty much. Right.
Very interesting. So how would you? Are there any recommendations or distinguishing between people you would recommend to pursue citizenship versus pursuing permanent residency?
Citizenship is more for someone who needs access, and they want a backup plan, right? Especially citizenship is, quite frankly, for someone who maybe only has one. Residency, on the other hand, is someone who might already have a couple of citizenships, but they want to live in a particular place, like let's say UAE or Greece, and they want to have a tax residency there, a tax basis there. So they're comfortable with their passports, but they want to be taxed as if they're in a particular location like that, and they want to be able to enjoy the lifestyle of living there and the freedom there. Maybe they're not really interested in procuring a nationality for their family, for their kids, for their for their spouse or parents, that sort of thing. So they just want the residency for tax minimization purposes and for lifestyle.
Right. There's also some countries that don't allow multiple citizenships too. So is that a problem that you might run into with certain clients, or?
It is, and for the nationalities that don't, that's mostly an issue between the individual and their government and reporting for that. It's also difficult for people of certain nationalities to even get to be approved for the citizenship by investment programs. Russians often have difficulty. Chinese tend to have some difficulty, and then not just them. There's a lot of nationalities where it becomes increasingly difficult depending on the program. Also, background too. So if when it comes time for the police report and it's the length of my arm, right? We wouldn't advise you to do Portugal,
right?
For example, we might not advise some of the other ones. That said, right? While nobody wants to have like a Pablo Escobar or something like that, show up. Some jurisdictions are more forgiving of that than others. So that's why when we talk to the client, there's no package. I don't have a package. I have tools, right, that we use to build a bespoke solution for somebody. So we sit down and talk to them and say, hey, where are you coming from? What's the past like? What would you like to achieve? And then we put together the best solution for them that we know is going to work.
Right. I mean, that's each one of these cases is highly individual.
Oh, all of them. Yeah. All of them. There's no packages.
Bespoke is the name of the game, and
totally
where it is a lot of the times. Tracing the source of the funding, making sure that the police check everything's A-okay in their home country. But most of the people that are going through these things, at least as far as I've understood, are just trying to find a better life for themselves and their families. So
exactly, it's not about like running or hiding or anything like that. It's about giving yourself options. It's about avoiding limitations that your government or your passport or the politics of the day impose on you. Right. You don't have any control over that, but what you can control, right, is where where your citizenship resides. Yeah. Where your residency is. So we can give you a little bit of control over that, so that if that passport's not working for you, it's not fulfilling your needs, going forward, that another one can. But it's getting more difficult.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's getting more difficult.
Well, it's certainly something that rears its ugly head here in Thailand pretty frequently, unfortunately. There's a lot of flip-flopping on policy, and a lot of people, in certain industries, I guess I won't name them specifically, but where the rules change quickly, and all of a sudden...
I feel for them.
Yeah, dude.
I feel for them. I've helped some of these. Yes, I feel deeply for them.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't avoid. But with this, at least it gives you some options so that, let's say certain things become unavailable to you, right? Because of your American passport, you have another one to work with. It really just, again, it provides you with some flexibility.
Yeah.
As it were. Yeah.
That's the idea, I guess, to be able to have options. Just a quick side question on all this. We've been talking a lot about nationalities. Where do you find most of your clientele coming from? Like, which are the nationalities maybe that are more interested in this and coming to pursue your offerings? What do you say?
Americans, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Because ours is the most restrictive. Right? Unlike other nationalities, if we open up a bank account overseas, there is a bundle of extra paperwork that bank has to deal with just because it's an American citizen, and primarily because America owns SWIFT, the bank transfer system. However, BRICS is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever political opinions people have on that is going to draw a line in the sand, right? It's going to give banks options as far as which system that they use. There's going to be pressure on both sides to accept one side or the other. Having another passport will very likely help you to get access to whichever side or both that you need without being isolated on one or the other. And God forbid it goes further than that.
Right.
And you don't want them to choose sides for you. Yeah.
Well, while we're on this tangent a little bit, I do want to ask then, since we're talking about SWIFT and banking, you've mentioned crypto as well as a sphere that you work in as well. How does that play into this? Is this another option that people are able to fund their pursuit of these other places, or
sure? So first and foremost, for here in Thailand, right, it's not an acceptable form of currency to accept for transactions. So our local firm here does not accept crypto for our legal services.
Right.
However, offshore companies, right, there's a little bit more flexibility with that, and so it allows clients to be able to fund these with their cryptocurrency payments. The other thing is certain jurisdictions are more open to different nationalities. Like, for example, it's difficult for Americans to open up exchange accounts overseas. Dutch nationals are having more difficulty.
Interesting.
Opening it, right. And it's limiting as to what they can do. But getting back to your question, you had mentioned some of the other people that come. So it's not just Americans, but people who have passports that really don't give them as much freedom in terms of travel, like visa-free travel. People who have investments in Europe, for example, they like the Portugal one. They like the Turkish one as well. A lot of good investment opportunities there, real estate. So yeah, it's not just Americans, but generally it goes, like I mentioned, in two camps. It's people who need it for to have options as far as their finances are concerned, as far as banking is concerned, and then people who want it for options for travel, for lifestyle, for family.
Yeah, that's it seems like a lot of benefits. Now, I mean, there's tons of people that are utilizing these services and looking to make these big changes in their life. Have you ever seen people try to handle these cases on their own without using bespoke services? Like, have you ever heard of cases like this? And what are some of the mistakes that might be made along the way? Why is that not advisable, I guess?
No.
People just don't do it.
No. I mean, I'm certain that they have.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But I haven't seen them.
Okay.
So I can't comment on anyone who's done this by themselves. But first and foremost, you need to be you need to either be or work with a registered agent for to be able to apply for these these CBI programs. So it's rare that someone would think to do something like that. What I have seen though is where someone sets up an offshore company because they want to have a bank account, and they do it online for a couple $1,000s or something, and then they have difficulty opening a bank account, or they do it online, they get a bank account, but then it gets shut down because they didn't pay their annual fees, or they didn't realize how it interacts with their taxes, and it didn't do what they wanted it to do, and now they're in trouble.
Right.
And then they come back and say, hey, how do we fix this? I'm like, really should not have done that. Right.
God.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
We can fix it. But it's a lot cheaper.
Right.
A lot safer. A lot, faster to set it up right than it is to go back and correct.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole idea, is that there could be some detail that you miss, and all of a sudden you've created a mountain out of a molehill. Like if it was just some little hiccup that you could have easily picked up on and prevented it from being snowballing into a worse situation.
Correct.
So yeah, it's something like I guess my father was in a similar business like this, and I would hear horror stories sometimes about people just like, what are you doing? Like there's a reason you hired me. I am the guy that's supposed to be handling this for you. And just to like save on a fee or something like that, it ends up just being a bigger nightmare. And then all of a sudden the client's even more angry because it's like, what? Now this costs me more money? It's like, well, yeah, you shot yourself in the foot here. So
it happens a lot here, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. So as I mentioned, we have our corporate law firm, Br'er Rabbit Legal, right here in Bangkok. People will set up a company. They want to buy a property. They want to do some investment here, and they'll do it. Let's say a Thai majority company, and their friend is like a nominee shareholder for it, and now they're trying to sell it. They're worried about taxes. They can't get the person to sign off. Maybe the land office is coming at them because they're technically not allowed to to own land without the certain circumstances being followed, and a lot of times it's relatively small amounts, but you'd be surprised how many people get caught up in this with large amounts, right? And it wasn't structured properly in the beginning, or structured on a straw, something so fragile that the lightest. Yes.
Oh, right. Terrifying.
Yeah, fixed a fair amount of those, and we help people to set that up right as well.
So you're a fireman as well, huh?
Yeah. I would say probably about half fireman, maybe about 60%. Yeah.
Well, it'd be nicer to have the clients on board before anything becomes a crisis, but it is nice to know that you're able to handle that.
It's okay
if it does. Yeah,
it's okay.
It's just a little more stressful of a day, but
it's all right. The hardest part is not to onboard the stress, because I feel for them. I empathize with the people. I have to, because if I can't empathize with where someone's coming from, I can't really help them.
Very well
as well
said.
as I could.
Yeah, and I think that's such a key aspect of this, is that these are people's lives, and you want to have somebody who's helping you and representing you in these ways to have skin in the game, to actually care
absolutely
about it. I mean, their success is your success at the same time, right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, you talk about full spectrum strategies. I was wondering, how do you incorporate lifestyle planning into the wealth and mobility equation? People are going all over the place. Why does that matter? Yeah.
Right, because, all right, it matters in a number of levels. So, like, let's say you're someone who does travel a lot, right? So, where's your tax residency, right? Which jurisdiction, like, would you be paying tax? How are you, where is your money coming from? Is it coming from investments? Is it coming from a business? Is it coming from passive income, right? Where is most of your spending going to be? What about family? Do you have kids? You got kids in college? You got parents, that you want to send cash to? so many questions about, your lifestyle, your spending, what you want to do in the future, right? Where you want to live, that, all that needs to be addressed and organized in a structure of companies, of banking, of investments, right? Of tax minimization strategy, of citizenship and residency planning, insurance, right? Yeah. That when you look at things individually, it may seem small, but as you put it together in the big picture, it's more of a holistic solution. And that's what we help with. We do a lot of these things in-house, and the ones we don't, we have really good relationships with, we can refer people to as well.
Oh, that's great too. So
it's like a one-stop solution.
One-stop shopping, that's it. And that's what you want, is a little peace of mind when it comes to all of these aspects. Absolutely. Because it can get so convoluted and complicated. So
yes, but then that's why it's difficult to market these tools as a product, like, hey, we open up offshore companies for you, or we help you with, opening up an offshore bank account, or private banking, or get citizenship by investment. And really and truly, these are all different fabrics of a suit, you might tell, or like fine leathers that put together your bag.
Got you.
Right, to put in, your Birkin, to put together your bag to carry all the things that you need in your life. So it's easier to provide it as a solution, to talk about it as a planning solution than individual parts. It's greater than the sum of its parts.
It's your own custom bespoke solution, as you.
I hate to keep using that word, but it's kind of like that. We're all a little bit different. Sure, we have similarities between each other, but when it comes to this planning, your life's different. It needs to be treated like its own unique thing, as opposed to here's a package off the shelf. This work, no, not here. Not at this level. No,
that makes sense. Well, you were talking a little bit about offshore companies. I want to talk a little bit about that, because I feel like they can often be misunderstood. So can you help me to distinguish, what do people get wrong about what's, normal legal processes versus something that might be shady?
Sure. So the thing is, people who've never really worked with offshore companies, they just, it triggers where they may have heard about them from. And that's usually negative things in the news, like Panama Papers, revealed all these people, like laundering money through these offshore companies, and these drug dealers and these, criminals laundering money. And the truth of the matter, offshore companies, right, when it comes to, business structures, or for tax minimization, or for accessing global markets, it's kind of like a pit bull. I joke, right? I mean, like, I'm a dog, right? I love dog, right? Pit bulls get a bad name, get a bad rep, because bad people abuse the poor dogs, right? They fight them, right? They don't feed them. They're abusive to them, and because they're really strong, when they bite somebody, it hurts. Pit bulls are really nice dogs. When you're good to these dogs, they take care of you. They will protect your house and protect your family, and they're so loyal.
I grew up with Rottweilers, so I know what you're talking about.
I'm like, Rottweilers get a bad rap too. Offshore companies are like that. Bad people use them to, let's say, help with, like some sort of like illicit, dealings or whatever, like funneling money under false pretenses. And when they get caught, it makes the whole situation look bad. But everyday people use them to just help with their business, to help with tax minimization, to help buy property. So like, I won't get into examples of how people doing illicit stuff use it, but for
let's not give anybody ideas.
No. But let's say, for example, you want to buy a property, right? So let's say, we won't get into like land ownership as foreigner or that sort of thing. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a foreigner. Let's talk about a condo. So, you want to buy a condo here. You could just buy it in your name, right? But then, it becomes, if you're going to have that as an investment property, right, you have to think about how you're going to handle the taxes for the rental incomes. God forbid you try and Airbnb it. Please don't. Please don't. Right.
Long-term rentals, please.
Exactly. Long-term rentals only, please. Right. you also got to think about what's your exit strategy in that 4 or 5 years when you go to sell it. What sort of taxes would you have on that? However, if it's now, this isn't for every property. I wouldn't advise it for smaller ones. But if you're starting to talk more than say 10 million baht or so, why not have that in a company name, right? So you have that in a Thai company name. Then the shares in that company, right, are held in your offshore company, right? And that offshore company, if it's part of a larger structure, could be held in a holding or it could be held in your trust, right? You can use a company to help with billing, right? You can write off like property management. What if the company that you have here is, let's say, is a focus on real estate investment or real estate management? Maybe it utilizes an IP or a trademark that's being held by another company of yours, right? Where you register your IP there. There's licensing fees. Right? You also want to look at maybe which offshore jurisdiction has a double taxation treaty with Thailand, like Hong Kong, for example. And then like later on, when you're ready to exit, right? Maybe you don't have to sell the condo itself, right? You don't have to. You don't have to sell the company.
Oh.
You sell the shares in the offshore company.
Interesting. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And of course, there's tax obligations there, but they're different.
Yeah.
Right.
Pay your taxes, people. Like this is all above board.
They're different. Yeah. And see, that's the thing. So anything we advise is lawful, right? But it gets you the best value for your money out of the law, right? And that's what we're looking at.
That's the key aspect of it here, and I think that's something that people misunderstand when we end up talking about offshore accounts, things like that. So, all above board. Lovely to hear it. Well, let's talk a little bit more specifically about Thailand. I want to ask a couple of questions. How do you balance the local compliance? I guess we were just talking about it a little bit, but compliance in a jurisdiction like Thailand with broader international tax optimization goals.
Right. So that's the most important and challenging, because Thailand is very specific about its compliance laws here, and this is our home, so we live here, so we make sure 100% anything that we suggest to our clients is compliant with local laws. There are things that you can do here, or that you can do like in other jurisdictions that you can't do here. Like, so for example, BVI, you're allowed to have a nominee director, for example. Here in Thailand, that doesn't fly. You don't even want to mention the word nominee. It's like a 4-letter word. Right? You don't. Yeah. So we don't suggest or facilitate any of that. However, you are able to have an offshore company act as a shareholder. There are ways for foreigners to buy land. There are programs like everyone knows about, like the BOI. There's long-term visas that give you some really, really good tax benefits when you're doing legitimate business here. So while Thailand has a higher barrier to entry for investment, and there's more compliance obligations, I think once you pass that barrier, there's some really, really strong opportunities that a lot of people aren't talking about. It's just not the place for just sitting with it.
Right.
You might need to be working.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the idea, right? If you're bringing in investment money, it should be, creating jobs, like helping move things around a little bit.
Exactly. But if you're doing that, it's a good place.
Right. Yeah. Not to mention, investments aside, it's just a great lifestyle, right?
Tell me about it.
It's a reason we all decided to stay here, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, there's no place that's a utopia, but there's more things that I love about being here than that I don't like, and compared to anywhere else.
They call it the land of smiles for a reason.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, let's talk a little bit more about modern asset protection. So times change, things change. When it comes to asset protection, let's say I'm assuming you have some very high net worth individual clients around?
Overwhelming majority of them, yes.
I imagine that's who we're working with.
Yeah.
What is something that is part of the strategy now that may not have been here 5-10 years ago? How are things evolving?
Onions.
What?
An onions. It has layers.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that
Shrek
is,
reference, by the way. I get it.
yeah, exactly. Come visit my cave.
Nice.
No, so a lot of high net worth individuals, and not just them, because it's becoming more accessible to people who would not be considered high net worth, maybe like $1 million or close to it. We do layers of protection, right? Where you have an offshore company that perhaps holds a property, which is then held in trust, right? That property might have a nominee director, has its own bank account, right? Maybe one company holds IP for another, right? Which is then, bills that company as part of a tax minimization strategy for write-off. So there's so many different layers now that people really didn't do previously. Before it was just, okay, I got an offshore company, and they put it in their name, right? Or they put it in their wife's name. They're a director on it. And some jurisdictions, all that is readily available, or can easily be readily available if a leak comes out, like what we saw with Panama Papers. But now people have a few more layers, at least. They'll have, they'll have a holding company, then an operations company. In the crypto space, they might have a token issuer and like an operation marketing platform. It just really depends on what they're doing. But now compared to yesterday, there are so many more layers, right? To help, like what you said, like protect their assets, protect from liability if they get sued, right?
Yeah.
And protect their privacy. Now, when I say protect, I can say what you protect, but I need to be very clear. It's not going to protect you from the government,
Right.
right? So if you're looking at trying to hide something from the government, that's I can't help you, because you won't. If they want to come after you, they're going to get you. But if you want privacy from, say, creditors, if you want asset protection, if you want liability protection, if you want to set up a tax minimization strategy legally, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a very important distinction there. We're not we're keeping it above board, everybody.
No. And I only come back to this because, again, if no one's ever experienced this side of lifestyle structuring, of corporate structuring, that's only reference they have. It's usually negative, unfortunately.
No, this reminds me of an example. I have like a very close family friend growing up. He worked internationally for it was the Peace Corps, actually. So he traveled around a lot. He worked in many different countries, trying to do good. That's American soft power diplomacy. And eventually he was audited, and it was just like an absolute nightmare. And this guy is a saint. He's like nothing sketchy ever. But what a nightmare it was for him to go through that. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I can imagine that these, kind of.
And sometimes it can just be little things like, when we set up a strategy there, it's not just to protect, but also how do you pay yourself, right? How do you remit money in such a way where you're not, avoiding any of your tax obligations.
Right.
So, classic strategy, in the States and other places, you have earn, borrow, die. Right.
I guess so. Yeah. I'd prefer not to do the last one, but yeah.
We all got to do sometime, right?
That's true.
But basically, when people start to get into a position where they have a sizable amount of investment assets, you don't just take your dividends from your fund. You don't just take your interest and remit that into your bank account, because again, that's capital gains. However, there's some funds, right, that we can help with private banking. They can assist with this, and there's others as well where again, set up with your offshore accounts and such. Where what you do is you don't take your cash from that. You borrow against that, right? You borrow against that at a rate that makes sense. Usually, ones we work with is maybe prime +1. And then while that's, your money's still there, earning, right? Your interest pays off the loan, right? And a loan isn't taxed. You remit money on a loan, right? That's not income, that's debt.
Yeah.
Right?
This is I've heard of this strategy being utilized.
Right. Yeah. And then what you do is you get yourself a life insurance policy. I'm not talking about the ones where you pay, every month, for 20 years and, if you're still around after that, it's gone. I'm talking about the ones where you pay a flat amount, say, depending on how old you are, like you might say $200,000 and you're good for $1.5 million or $2 million when you pass at your age, right? So that when that does happen, right, your heirs, your kids, right, they have the life insurance policy pays off what you borrowed and start again. And property goes a step up in basis, or maybe they're already beneficiaries in a trust that we set up for them. So it requires a different thinking. And sometimes people find themselves in, a position where they have more money, they have more to invest, right? They make common mistakes like just bringing in their money without thinking about the best way to do it. Yeah.
I think that's you hit the nail on the head, because a lot of people just might not even be aware that they're doing anything wrong.
No. So there's insurance policies you can do that with too. It's not just investment funds, but
Sure. I did want to ask about trusts, because you brought that up briefly. Is it still an effective tool in this world?
Oh, they're still a powerful tool, especially when combined with effective governments, right? And planning. So it's not something used to hide assets. Again, it's not something used to hide assets from the government, but to protect from creditor risk, right? And to help with liability concerns. So when they're managed, when I say when they're governed correctly, make sure you have good trustees in place, right? Those are the people who basically make sure everything stays compliant, make sure that the beneficiaries are receiving their allotments to the instructions, the settler. So a lot of times people get with trustees that either are inactive or don't understand what they want to achieve with it, and they don't get the most out of it. Right? So I wouldn't just rush into a trust. You have to sit down with a professional like us, and we'll work with you to make sure that, one, it's the right thing for you, and two, that it's going to deliver what
you want it to.
Exactly, right? Exactly what you intend for it to.
Exactly. Oh, interesting to hear. No, it's very cool. It seems like it's an ever-shifting landscape. How has the regulatory environment changed in recent years? Are there, challenges that you've seen arise that you've been able to overcome?
It's getting more and more challenging, especially in the banking and crypto exchange sectors, particularly for Americans, but not just for Americans. So, for us, setting up an offshore account, even when you set up an offshore company, if you're a shareholder, if you're a director, there's FATCA compliance. For others, it's CRS. There's been a greater push to look into these more, right? Which is a double-edged sword, right? It's good on one side because there's those people, like going back to the pit bull analogy, there's people who's fighting those poor dogs and they need to be stopped. There's people who are utilizing, right, the offshore structures to do dirt.
Right.
And there's some of them are horrible people and they need to be stopped. However, because of that, right, sometimes people, well-meaning people, like the one you talked about who was saying he got caught in the audit, are getting caught are getting caught up in these investigations and such because they happen to be there or their structure is weak, not necessarily nefarious, but just weak, and it looks looks suspicious. Yes, and looks suspicious, and maybe it's not maintained properly. So what we do is make sure that when our clients set up structure, everything is done above board and compliant and remains that way and responsive, so that if there is a sniff, because sometimes, they'll ask a question, right? If like the regulatory body has an issue, they'll come to, if you ignore that, right? You have issues. So no, we invite that. We think it's actually a good thing long term, even if it is a bit more difficult for people right now. It helps to clean out the space, and it needs that.
Well, yeah. So when these when the regulatory bodies come through with their dragnet, you don't want to become bycatch, right? And that's where your expertise can come in handy and keep you swimming freely.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, I wanted to shift gears to maybe a little bit more of the cultural aspect of this. There's so much talk about this digital nomad lifestyle. Do you think that this trend is going to continue on an upward trajectory? As we've seen, like here in Thailand, where they have the DTV visa, there's all sorts of incentives. People are making their money digitally online, so they can work from anywhere. Do you think that this is going to continue to be a trend, or will there be a shift back to more traditional residency?
No. There's not going to be. If I had to put money on it, right? I don't have a crystal ball, but you're going to see a lot more of accommodations made for what's referred to as a digital nomad. And I think even the term might change in the future, because it's going to be so common that people are earning their livings online, whether they're hired for people directly, right, and working remotely, or they have their own companies. And AI is going to exacerbate this, right? There's just no way that's not going to exacerbate, because you're going to have people who, their jobs are going to be taken, and it's part of, like whatever you think about the technology, that's just a fact. Their jobs are going to be taken. So they're going to have to find new ways to earn income. So that's going to be businesses online, or they might do freelance work for several people online. And, that's there. And of course, people who do utilize the service, or they do other traditional work that's, that they can do remotely, is just going to be it's going to be more common as well. And unfortunately, because a lot of times these jobs come with less benefits, they may come with less salary, that it will become more difficult for for people who were formerly in a professional field in the States or in Europe, where they were earning, large money. They can't earn the same amount online, so they can't afford the same lifestyle in the States that they could. So they're going to want to come to places like Thailand, like Philippines, like Portugal, like Brazil, places where it's less expensive, right? Where they can still maintain a decent quality of life. And I'm sure as they do, the visa incentive programs are going to come up. And when you do that, these type of structures, they aren't just for wealthy people, are going to come in more and more handy, right? You see it right now with the DTV visa. You need to maybe have like a company for example, you work for. So some people own their own companies, and they get themselves access in effect to visa by having their own companies. It can start with one. Yeah.
And the financial thresholds for that kind of visa aren't astronomical at all.
No. And I think these things are going to come down too in the future. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you think that we'll see governments around the world maybe embracing these CBI and RBI structures as a way to raise more capital for their own investment projects, whatever they may be? Because we see a lot of Portugal, you've mentioned specifically, is very much on board with these kinds of programs. Do you think other countries are going to utilize these kinds of structures more often in the future?
That's a good question. I think there'll be a shift.
Okay.
And I think it's going to become more difficult. Take Portugal, for example. Right now, like, remember how I mentioned before, you can invest in a fund or in real estate, then 5 years later you can
get it back. Yeah,
exactly. Well, you don't just get it back, but you have the golden visa then, and then 5 years later, you get your passport. There's been a lot of pushback there from locals about tourists, right, and expats flooding the market and driving the rental. Right. Driving the housing market up, driving just the cost of living up in general. And because of that, the government there is looking at ways of changing this program to make it so that perhaps people have to wait 7 years or 10 years even. Mm-hmm. I think some places where people get the citizenship by investment program, like where they get the passport, but don't tend to live there that often, say like St. Lucia or Nauru or like Vanuatu or whatever.
Places, yeah.
I don't think that's going to be affected much because the people that live there aren't affected by people coming to stay. But for the ones where, for the places where people want the citizenship and actually intend on living there, right? Those are going to become more difficult. And those are the ones that are going to become the most valuable, as eventually I think they're going to make the citizenship by investment programs harder. They're going to increase the thresholds, and they're going to start looking at other nationalities, right, later on, and maybe implementing some policies against them. So the sooner you get in with that, the better. Also, the stronger the passport you get, right, the better as well. The lower chances of there being any issues with it later on down.
Yeah, I mean, demand is not going down. So
no, it's only going up, especially as political turmoil raise. Right, we see how quickly a war can just pop off.
Yeah, unfortunately, that has been the story of the past 5 years, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, you want to get in now rather than try and knock once the doors close or when something happens.
Right. Yeah. That is. I mean, it's. I think we take it for granted, right? We have a globalized world. It's very easy, at least to maybe travel a little bit, but if in terms of this global mobility, right, like actually creating a lifestyle, like I know as a migrant myself, how difficult it can be to battle the bureaucracy and to be able to find a way. It took me a long time. I was lucky during, I got locked down here during COVID, and they were granting COVID extensions. So I was able to stay here for a long time. It was, but then my clock was ticking and time was running out, and I had fallen in love with Thailand. I'm like, how am I going to stay? And fortunately, I was able to get a work permit, and now I'm able to stay here. But a lot of people don't have that option, and this is a way to provide solutions to people that might have the resources.
Absolutely.
That's good.
And we can do a lot of the same things for people here. I mean, obviously, there's no citizenship by investment program, but the visas, work permits, setting up your company, especially. We focus more for people who want to set up a business here or do decent size investment, right? But we can set it up for you, help you get your BOI promotion, your treaty of amity, all that good stuff.
Nice, yeah. All right, one-stop shopping, like you said.
Exactly.
Well, I want to pick your brain for a couple of final thoughts, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I guess we were just touching on it a little bit. What is one piece of advice that you wish every entrepreneur or high net worth expat would hear before they make the move internationally?
Sit down with someone who knows what they're doing first. Matter of fact, sit down with 2 or 3 people who know what they're doing first. Because if you have the money, right, the time pays dividends. Talk with an expert first. You want to look for someone who asks you a lot of questions, who gets in your business. It might make you a little bit uncomfortable, right, to talk about, right? But there's a reason for it.
Right.
Because there is no such thing as just like an off-the-shelf solution to this. It's the best ones are tailored for who you are, what you want to do, what you're doing now, right? And what you want to achieve with with your finances, with your work, with your investments, right? So whatever you do, please don't just Google it.
Right.
Do not only ask ChatGPT. All right. I mean, hey, ask ChatGPT, but don't just depend on them. Please don't. Right.
Right.
Talk to some professionals first.
You wouldn't lie to your doctor, right? No. Like it's like you want them. They need to know what is going on in order to give you the best solution, right? So
and the more time you got to put in a little background, research on it, the better. It's only going to pay dividends. You're not going to lose anything on the time you invest to educate yourself on that. But please talk with at least one, better 2 or 3 professionals before you pull the trigger.
There you go. Yeah, get your first, second opinion, maybe even a third. But then you can also do your own research and see that the advice that you've been given can be backed up by your own research and say like, oh yeah,
or might think of something else like, oh, actually, I can tie this in. I didn't tell him about this business I was going to, and there you go.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's why you got to get in there and you got to kick the tires and see what's the deal here.
Absolutely.
So you can give the best advice and create the best plan for them. All of this stuff is just, it's difficult waters to navigate, and having these services available to people allows them, sleep easier and have a little bit more faith in the future that they're setting up wherever it is their dream life is. So fantastic stuff, Cleveland, man. Very interesting. And I hope that you'll be able to find, a lot of ways, a lot of people that are looking and might be thinking about pulling the trigger will feel a little safer maybe in your hands. So why don't you tell us how can our listeners learn more about Br'er Rabbit and where they can find you and get in touch?
Sure. So we have a corporate law firm right here on BTS Udom Sok and 66th Tower, Br'er Rabbit Legal, 15th floor. That's br'errabbitlegal.co.th, right? And that's for just about anything you'd want to do here in Thailand. And then we have br'errabbit.io. That's our offshore corporate advisory website, and that focuses for a lot of the things we mentioned before. We talk about citizenship by investment and other programs. And you can reach us through WhatsApp, through Line, through Telegram. I'm sure we can provide the links for that. It's good to go.
Fantastic. Yeah, all of those links will be down in the comments, everybody, or in the description. So you'll be able to very easily find a way to get in touch with Cleveland over here, and he'll be able to set you on your journey and help you along the way.
Outstanding.
Well, thank you so much, Cleveland, for joining us today. It was a pleasure, very fascinating conversation, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers who have been dreaming about, this life abroad and setting sail will feel safer having a conversation with you.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
guys. Tune in. You can check out the Thaiger podcast and get a hold of Cleveland for all of your financial advisory needs. And we will see you in the next episode, guys. Take care. Cool. Wow.
All right,
but anyways, Cleveland, thank you so
thanks.
much, my friend.
I appreciate it. I hope everything turns out